Joining us live from central London is Matthew Osborne, who's a senior energy analyst at the energy consultancy firm Inenco. Good morning to you. So we hear from that customer there, the bills aren't easier to understand, the feeling here that much more needs to be done by Ofgem.
Yeah, I totally agree that energy bills can be confusing and there's lots of different sort of components to a bill. I think this is something that Ofgem is currently looking at and is forcing suppliers to think radically about how they structure a customer's bill, make it very simple as to what each individual cost item is, and just making bills easier so that they can compare against each other and so customers can easily switch between suppliers.
And the committee says that Ofgem is failing. Do you think that's a fair assessment of what's happening here?
I don't think Ofgem is necessarily failing, but I think there's always a bit of a lag between the regulator and the markets, and it's almost the regulator is having to play catch up essentially. I mean, I think one of the things that the committee has also said is that energy companies are making sort of excessive profits, and they've been sort of shifting their focus away from the retail markets, which is where Ofgem is the regulator, to looking at the wholesale markets where Ofgem is not the regulator. So if Ofgem needs to look at the wholesale markets, it needs wholesale market powers, which it doesn't currently have.
So is that something that you think needs to be changed? I mean, what else can be put in place then to make this tougher?
Well, over the next couple of years, Ofgem should get powers to actually look at the wholesale markets and have regulatory powers such as being able to investigate these companies and looking at their trading positions, looking at how they trade on the wholesale markets and whether there's any market manipulation. So that's a good step. It's a couple of years away, but it is a positive step in the right direction.
And you say there that it doesn't have all the powers that it needs. Is Ofgem in its current form fit for purpose then?
I think in its current form, its current remit is to protect customers and protect the retail market and promote retail market competition. I think its powers obviously need to change with the times, and that's something that obviously the committee has recognised, and I think Ofgem also recognised that as well. But it takes time to push those changes through, essentially.
And how big a problem do you think this issue of trust is?
It is a big point as well, and I think one of the criticisms is that that the complexity of a customer's bill makes it very hard for a customer to understand what it is that they're actually paying for, and therefore that creates mistrust between the customer and the companies and the energy suppliers. I think energy suppliers are doing their fair bit to try to improve on that condition. They are trying to make bills very simple and effective and clearer to understand. But again, this kind of takes time to feed into the marketplace.
And that's the concern, isn't it? How long do you think it will take to actually have some concrete effect, all of this? Because from customers' point of view, they obviously urgently want to see these situations remedied.
I think so, and I think over the next year or so we should see some positive changes. So, for example, British Gas, their retail business has already started to implement some of these changes. So they've started to cut down on the amount of tariffs that they've offered to consumers and making bills slightly clearer. They've also initiated a programme where they proactively call customers every 6 months to check that things are going okay and making sure that they're on the right tariffs. So there are positive effects that we are seeing at this point in time.
And what about the measures that Ofgem has, the remedies, the fines, the punishments that they can put in place? Are they tough enough to be able to allow them to do the job?
I mean, I think so, and in the past we've seen some recent fines that Ofgem have imposed on supply companies, and they've been pretty harsh at times. But I think also the regulator needs to get to grips with what its actual remit is. Rather than just thinking about fining companies, it needs to think about positive solutions for the market. And obviously, penalties are clear deterrents, but in the first place, I think we'd rather see, positive changes to the market and how the market works before we talk about penalties.
Thanks for that. That's Matthew Osborne there, Senior Energy Analyst at the energy consultancy firm Inenco.